First Ironheart reactions are in. Does it defy the haters? Or is it another skippable series? It's always about you, right? It's always about the audience. It's amazing. It doesn't matter if it's the 2024 election or whether it's a Disney streaming product. It's always about like how evil is the actual voters? How evil are the audience?
Well, we finally have our first hint of what this show is performing like when it comes to the numbers. Spoiler alert, kind of exactly what we expect. Ironheart ratings in the gutter.
All right, settle in, folks, because we need to talk about Ironheart. Now, you might have heard the whispers, the little birdies chirping about Disney Plus and their latest masterpiece. But nobody's talking about the real scandal, the one that's got the whole internet in a chokehold. We're not talking about bad CGI or plot holes big enough to drive a Quinjet through. We're talking about something far more insidious, something that reaches right into the very fabric of identity. The kind of identity that apparently, according to some, can actually sink a multi-million-dollar superhero show. And folks, when I tell you what some people are actually blaming for Ironheart's faceplant, you're gonna need a defibrillator, because it's not what you think, and it certainly ain't what they want you to think.
Where Downey Jr. pointed out to both Marvel and Disney that this could not only ruin his reputation, but also cost him fans, and he's against making those statements. However, both Bob and Kevin informed him that taking part in these types of statements and the press tour for Ironheart is built into his very expensive contract for the future of the MCU, mostly related to the return in Avengers Doomsday. RDJ is already challenging both Bob Iger and Kevin Feige that he will only make statements defending Ironheart and Riri Williams if it avoids arguments about DEI.
So, the word on the street, the deep, dark secret nobody at Disney wants you to whisper, is that some folks out there are pointing fingers at the star herself. Yes, you heard right. Not the writing, not the direction, not the budget that could probably solve world hunger and still have enough left over for a solid gold vibranium yacht. No, it's apparently about, well, let's just say some folks are wondering if the very essence of who Dominique Thorne is off screen might just be the kryptonite that laid Ironheart low. Now, I'm not saying that's what I believe, but you gotta admit, when a show gets buried quieter than a library mouse and the loudest buzz is about the lead actress's personal life, you start to scratch your head a little. It's like blaming the flavor of your ice cream for the fact that the spoon just spontaneously combusted. It makes no sense, but here we are. And speaking of things that make no sense, let's talk about the promotion, or should I say, the spectacular lack thereof.
Yeah, and it's like the real Tony Stark gets like back somehow, and there's like a moment where she's flying through and he's like, who is that? And she's like, I'm Ironheart, Mr. Stark. And he's like, I like that girl. And then he like goes to do something else. Like that would be like the level of something that I think would possibly happen.
They spent $200 million on this thing. $200 million. You could buy a small country for that, or at least enough avocado toast to feed a generation of millennials for a decade. But did you see any billboards? Any flashy commercials? Was there a single premiere event that didn't look like it was held in a broom closet? Nope. Marvel, the kings of hype, the maestros of momentum, they just quietly uploaded Ironheart to Disney Plus like it was some kind of highly contagious radioactive waste they were hoping no one would notice. They treated this series like that weird smell in your refrigerator you know is bad, but you're too scared to investigate. And guess what? Nobody noticed. It wasn't a surprise drop, it was a covert burial. They weren't trying to catch fans off guard, they were trying to hide the body. And honestly, you have to wonder, if they're this embarrassed by their own product, what does that say about the final cut? Because if they thought it was good, they'd be shouting it from the rooftops, wouldn't they? Or maybe, just maybe, they knew it was a dud from the jump, and that brings us to the curious case of a certain armored Avenger.
They also had Robert Downey Jr., and they had him roll out and really kind of prop the show up and prop the character of Riri Williams up above Tony Stark, and really tried to really have him really as the face of the Ironheart press tour, and it really just backfired completely.
Now, you remember Robert Downey Jr., right? The guy who is practically Iron Man? Turns out even he apparently threw a fit. Word on the cosmic grapevine is that RDJ told Marvel and Disney, look, putting me out there to shill for this thing is going to ruin my street cred. It's going to cost me fans. And what did Bob Iger and Kevin Feige reportedly say? Tough luck, pal. It's in your very expensive contract for the future of the MCU. So the man who built this whole empire, the guy whose charisma practically holds the multiverse together, was being dragged kicking and screaming to a press tour for a show they actively tried to hide. It's like forcing Michael Jordan to endorse a pair of flip-flops. You just know it's not going to end well. And it makes you wonder if RDJ, the actual Tony Stark, was trying to distance himself from it. What did that tell them about the product they were peddling? Because if the face of their most successful franchise won't go near it without a fight, what hope did the show really have? And speaking of hopes, let's talk about how they actually tried to release this thing.
Daredevil was a massive disappointment in the ratings for them, certainly. We do know, when you go and you look at through these charts, the first couple days it was out, because we have 3 days of Ironheart in these numbers, just like we had 3 days of Daredevil in these numbers. And Daredevil in those first 3 days had over 300 million minutes watched. So, and that was with less possible runtime than something like Ironheart. Yet we know that it hasn't matched that.
This wasn't a release strategy. It was a confession. 3 episodes dropped on a random Tuesday, like a forgotten grocery list, and the final 3 exactly 1 week later. No weekly buildup, no mid-season hype, no cliffhangers that would make you want to call in sick to work just to know what happens next. Just a quiet, awkward binge release, like they were trying to sneak it out the back door before anyone noticed the mess. That's not how you treat a flagship hero. That's how you treat a mistake. They even had the audacity to pretend the show's future depended on fan demand. What fans? There was no buzz, no trending hashtags, no online movement begging for more. Not even the hate watchers bothered to show up. When even controversy can't save your show from disappearing into the internet ether, you know it's over. It's like throwing a party and nobody shows up, not even the neighbors who usually complain about the noise. And that silent treatment, my friends, leads us to a fascinating point about their official stance. Despite this spectacular, silent crash and burn, Marvel still refuses to officially cancel Ironheart. They're hiding behind vague language, dependent on viewership, still being discussed, awaiting fan feedback. It's the oldest trick in the book. They're trying to keep the illusion alive to avoid admitting failure. The head writer, Chinaka Hodge, even told fans, "You can decide what happens next." But that only works if people are actually watching. And they're not. There's no audience to rally, no demand to build on, no momentum to justify a second season. It's not a cliffhanger, it's a dead end. They're basically hoping if they ignore it long enough, maybe it'll just vanish like a bad dream. It's like your ex who keeps calling you just checking in, even though you block them on every platform known to man. It's over. And their silence, believe it or not, screams louder than any press release ever could. Marvel's silence said it all. No viewership numbers, no streaming charts, no spin, nothing. And that, my friends, is the biggest red flag of all. When Daredevil Born Again dropped, Marvel boasted 7.5 million views. When Agatha All Along launched, they bragged about 9.3 million. Even The Acolyte had its numbers front and center, despite its mixed reviews. But Ironheart, total blackout, not a single figure released. Why? Because the numbers were probably so humiliating, they'd make a grown man cry into his Captain America shield. It didn't even chart on Luminate during its premiere week, not even in the top 10. That's almost impossible for a Marvel project. It's like a professional chef burning water. You just don't do that. And with a rumored budget of $200 million, this wasn't just a flop. It was a blockbuster-level catastrophe. But the issues run even deeper than just the numbers, and they lead us straight to the character herself. Marvel pitched Riri Williams as the next Iron Man, a brilliant black teen who builds her own suit and takes on the world. On paper, sure, that sounds promising. In practice, it was a complete failure of character execution. Riri didn't come off as relatable or heroic. She came off as smug, arrogant, and dismissive. She never earned anything. She just expected it. Somehow, she's both the smartest person in every room and the perpetual victim of everything around her. Her character arc didn't show growth, vulnerability, or sacrifice. It showed entitlement. And then came the jaw dropper. Her big hero moment ends not with triumph, not with evolution, but with her literally making a deal with Mephisto, the devil himself. That's not character development. That's brand suicide. Marvel tried to build a symbol of empowerment and instead created a protagonist that audiences actively rooted against. It's like trying to bake a cake and it comes out as a brick. You just don't serve that to your guests. And speaking of things that didn't go well, let's talk about those critical reviews. When the reviews started trickling in, and not the kind Marvel was hoping for, the usual playbook kicked in. Critics rallied, not with honesty, but with excuses. Rotten Tomatoes magically cleaned up its audience reviews. 1-star ratings vanished just like that. Poof! As if erasing Backlash could rewrite reality. Even after this digital sanitation, the audience score still tanked. IMDb, a painful 4.2. That's in the same league as Eternals and Echo, the please stop making television tier. But instead of taking accountability, Marvel doubled down on denial. They claimed the show was misunderstood, that audiences just didn't get it. But fans did get it, loud and clear. What they got was a tone-deaf, soulless series that mistook identity for personality and assumed criticism was bigotry. The critics didn't save it, they just delayed the inevitable. The audience walking away in silence. And that silence, my friends, is the most damning indictment of all. It's the ultimate mic drop. Because when your show is so forgettable that it doesn't even spark outrage, you've hit rock bottom. And that's the real legacy of Ironheart, which leads us to the bigger picture. Ironheart isn't just a bad show, it's a warning sign. A symptom of a studio that's completely lost the plot. Once upon a time, Marvel knew how to tell stories. Complex characters, emotional arcs, payoff built over years, but now they write for social media applause, not audiences. Characters are no longer flawed heroes who grow. They're untouchable mascots of identity politics. Riri Williams isn't written as a person. She's a checklist. Brilliant, check. Oppressed, check. Always right, check. No journey, no struggle, no depth. And it shows what used to be compelling storytelling has been replaced with shallow symbolism. These aren't heroes, they're hashtags. They're algorithm bait wrapped in representation. And Ironheart is the byproduct of that creative rot. A hollow series born from good intentions, but crippled by lazy execution. Marvel forgot who they were writing for, and fans can feel it. That's why they stopped showing up. 6 episodes came and went, and it was like Ironheart never even existed. No trending hashtags, no theories, no buzz, not even memes. That's how culturally empty this show was. It didn't capture attention, didn't inspire, didn't ignite fandom, because there's no story worth latching onto, no character to root for, no excitement to build on. And the ultimate punchline? Even now, Marvel is still pretending there's hope for a season 2. They're out there doing interviews, urging fans to show support. But let's be honest, if this show gets renewed, it won't be because of demand. It'll be because someone at Marvel is terrified of admitting they backed a failure. It's not about storytelling anymore, it's about salvaging a brand. And that, my friends, is the real tragedy. What do you folks think about all this? Are we just seeing the tip of the iceberg? Let us know in the comments below.